question.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So yeah, we were planning to do a sort of like a mock vote for the topic of debate that happened for the past nearly 3 hours. So just to see where we're at and to give more insight to the IO and the GB on how we feel about this topic after the debate that happened earlier today. So there will be, yeah. Okay, so Dennis will post a poll or an explanation to the vote. Like it's nothing official, it's just like a mock vote session on the Slack in Slack channel for EAP finance structure. So if you can, I would ask you to go to that channel and to vote once Dennis posts the thing in the channel. That being said, I now give words to Linda to take over the next part of the meeting.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Europe. I guess I can finally say that. We're going to proceed with a roll call, just in case, because we had a break, just to make sure that we still have the quora, and that we can proceed to a policy proposal. So I will call out one by one. We've already been over this. So Albania.
Present.
Good. Armenia.
Present.
Austria.
Present.
Azerbaijan. No Azerbaijan. Belarus. No. Belgium.
Present.
Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Present.
Croatia.
Present.
Cyprus. No Cyprus. Czech Republic.
Present.
Denmark.
Present.
Estonia.
Present.
Finland.
Right here.
France.
Present.
Georgia. Nope. Germany.
Present.
Greece.
Present.
Ireland.
Present.
Ireland.
Present,
Okay.
yeah, sorry.
Great. Italy. No, Italy. Latvia.
Present.
Great. Lithuania.
Present.
Luxembourg.
Present.
Great to have you, Luxembourg. Netherlands.
Present.
Norway.
Present.
Poland.
Present.
Portugal.
Present.
Romania.
Present.
Russia.
Present.
Serbia.
Present.
Slovakia.
Present.
Slovenia.
Present.
Spain.
Present.
Sweden.
Present.
Switzerland.
Present.
Turkey.
Present.
Ukraine.
Present.
And United Kingdom.
Present.
Great. We have 32 countries present. That means we have reached a quora, and we can now go on to the third debate of the meeting, which is policy on national committee compliance review and mechanism. It will be presented by a governing body. Spokesperson for a governing body will be Nicola. You can find the proposal on the meeting page, booklet 11. We will be also introducing a new part of debate, which we haven't not seen yet, and that is amendment by EYP Sweden. We will first give the floor to the governing body. Also, this is a new policy, a new governance-related policy, meaning that it has to get at least 51% of the votes to become into a policy proper. For a reminder, governance policies our work at setting rules for international governance and stakeholders of the network. This is again, this is a brand new policy being made, and it's meant to build upon the work that has been done over the years at BNC meetings by the BNC and GB. This topic has been brought up in the 2 years past, namely in 1802 and 1902 meetings. And I will now give the floor to Nicola.
No, I think, Linda, you introduced it well, and you almost took all of the points that I had. But overall, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the post-coffee break discussions. So now we're discussing the policy on National Committee compliance review and mechanism. So if I could get the next slide, please. Wonderful. And so the aim of this policy is to really specify and regulate what is the exact procedure in case we find that, as a network, we find that an NC is fundamentally non-compliant with the charter, all associated policies. And so it defines all of the possibilities as well as the rights of certain NCs and what happens in the case of a divergence from the charter. As Linda mentioned, this has been an ongoing discussion over the past couple of years, as we had a couple of NCs that had difficulties with compliance and also that did not know their rights in case of a violation. So it's always a question of what are NCs' rights in case there is a violation to be found and how they can best react. So overall, this policy builds on the work from previous BNC proposals, as well as previous governing body members, as well as EYP Portugal's proposal for last BNC that we tried to combine into this policy. Overall, it guarantees that there is both a procedure as well as certain rules and measures to follow for an NC to come back into compliance. Again, our idea is not to have a strict based concept where we punish NCs, but it's more a possibility for NCs to come back into compliance. So we really aim to speed up the process of bringing back NCs to compliance. And if it fails, then we have the possibility to suspend the NC. Again, suspension does not mean derecognition. Overall, I don't think that we had any cases of derecognitions or suspensions due to non-compliance. Overall, we always try to find an amicable solution, and I think this is the way to go forward as well. All of the derecognitions we had in the past years were due to inactivity, but now we have at least steps to follow in case that there is a fundamental non-compliance with the charter. And of course, if I could have the rationale slide. What we aim to do with this proposal is that we set a clear procedure in case that an NC violates the charter, and we also define what a violation of the charter is. That's the first articles of the policy. It also explains what available paths can the NC take, so be it to directly achieve compliance, be it to have a dispute resolution, or be it to find a third way to resolve this problem. And also we want to create a foundation for future work of both the BNC and the GB for there to be a policy review system. So as it stands now, there is not a possibility to review all of the NCs. We do this on a more friendly basis through the census and through your requests. But overall now we want to build up that system and really allow for NCs to evaluate their own compliance and see if there's anything that could be missing. For now, it's really in the early works. Now I really want to set the groundworks for a possibility to review compliance, and then further on down the road in a couple of years, we could already talk about compliance review done on an annual basis. It also introduces, I think this is a wrong slide though. Overall, it also includes wonderful. It also includes the position of NC compliance officer within the GB. So that was a position that was not available before. It was there unofficially, as in there was an NC, there was a GB person that was in charge of NCs that would review compliance, but now we officially set it in stone, as one could say, and we really have one person dedicated to focusing on national committee compliance. And also it's that person that we want to aim to contact in case there's a problem with compliance. So as before, we have a safe core person on the GB who's responsible for upkeeping the safe core team and also helping the safe core team develop. We also want to have a GB person that is responsible for NC compliance. And with this policy, we really aim to do that. And of course, we love that UAP Sweden took the time to really read the proposal and proposed amendments. And of course, if I understand there's no statements for now, so I will let the BNC board take over now.
Yes, thank you, Nicola. Now we move on to the new and exciting part of the debate, which is amendment proposed by EYP Sweden. EYP Sweden, you have the floor. Just as a point before Arat starts, we would like the amending part to take place in about 15 minutes because this debate is overall only 45 minutes long. Okay, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Linda. First off, I would like to commend Nicola and GB for putting the policy proposal forward, bring some clarity, overview as to what steps the GB would, in those cases, make, especially some clarity in terms of the NC compliance officer. And that is why we would like the spirit of the policy to remain the same. I suppose you can switch over to the amendment slide, if possible. One more. An additional one. There we go. So the aim is to specify, remove, and change the phrasing of a number of clauses in the proposal, whilst the aim of the proposals remain intact. Moving on to the next slide, the most significant change this amendment makes concerns, in a sense, the hierarchy of norms. The proposal has to comply with the EYP Charter, namely Article 17.1, which states that the BNCM governing body can propose policy that regulates issues not covered by the Charter. And now we're focused on clause 14 in the proposal, not covered by the Charter. And I wanted to draw your attention to Article 7.3 in the UIP Charter, the second sentence, which says, let's see. So one such issue that the policy in 14 tries to regulate further is the way the EYP network governance may lift the suspension of an NC. And this is regulated by the second sentence here in Article 7.3, which highlights the ways the suspension can end. And the current proposals adds an additional way to lift a suspension, despite it already being an issue covered by the Charter. So moving on to the next slide, the proposal is basically to provide a temporary or an alternative solution to this problem. So it is, in our view, compliant with the EYP Charter. And in addition to this, it adds phrases, makes editorial changes to clauses in a way that reflects and references the EYP Charter. And lastly, it also requires a rationale from all requesting entities for violation allegations and not solely members of the network. Is there another slide, possibly, Linda? Yeah, so the outcome is pretty much that the aim of the proposal remains intact and it is compliant with the EYP Charter. That is, in short, the proposal. And of course, you can check the booklet to see the specific changes made.
Okay, we will now have a response from the proposing entity. Take it away, Nicola.
Grand, amazing. Thank you, Arad, for going into detail and for really pointing out the link between the charter and this policy. I would note, however, that all of the, I guess, more stylistic changes and removal of commas does not constitute an amendment in itself, seeing that it's visibly in error from both my side and the GB side, rather than a structural change. So this can be easily amended. It doesn't have to even go through a procedure. It's just a note that we get. And when officially putting it on the members platform, we can then change it. So I don't know how the system would function now with the BNC board. I think I will leave them up with the idea. But overall, I think that, for example, your proposal to include everything with the rationale, that's completely fine. I think that's a very good addition to our current strategy. But overall, for the rest, I think that for stylistic changes, there is no need to go through through an amendment. But if we adopt the whole amendment in its entirety, then okay. Lastly, concerning your point around point 8, and as a refusal to cooperate with the governing body in regards to the violation of the charter and the policies, we still think that that's a possibility that an NC could claim that. Overall, you say that it cannot be formulated. It is still something that the NC can formulate, and that still we allow for it to formulate, and then we try to find an additional solution. And then for the last point that you mentioned in your presentation as well, which was to link back to the charter, and in terms of issues that are not regulated by the charter can have an additional policy. I don't think that it's exclusive. I think that we have many policies that reaffirm what the charter has said, and it's under the rule of lex specialis derogat generali. So we have the charter, but then we reaffirm it in the policy. So it's not counterintuitive to have both that reaffirm the same thing. I think it's more of a specialized policy that really emphasizes what was said in the charter. So of course we will let this and I really thank you, Arad, for taking the time. And I think these are all incredible contribution to the proposals. None of them are being counterintuitive or even they really build upon the policy. So I thank you for that. I have no objections to the amendments. So we will let the BNC board take it over.
Yes. Now we will go to I would like to have two rounds of debate for this amendment. So yeah, if there are no objections by GB, because there are no objections from the GB, I would like to have this very short debate, rounds of debate. Who wants to go first? EYP Netherlands, you're recognized.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was a bit, because this is specifically about the amendment, right?
Yes.
Okay, then not yet, no.
Okay. Anyone else? If there are none, I would like to propose the amendment to be taken as lemina contradiciente, because this is obviously not a very controversial amendment, given that the proposing entity is also happy with it. So if anyone would like to have a roll call vote, please let me know. Otherwise, we will pass this amendment. Great. I guess we can say that the amendment has passed and now is part of the proposal. Now we're going back to the proposal itself. We would have a statement here, but EYP Sweden has made their amendment and has decided not to do a statement. Therefore, there are no statements at this point. If nobody wants to make them, we will open the rounds of debate. Of course, Netherlands will go first, but yes. No statements, therefore Netherlands, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. My question was related to a specific part of the policy. At point 10, you state that a national committee can appeal to a decision made, and then the governing body informs the BNC. and they will have a nice little extended panel with the governing body, the BNC, and the executive director of the IO. However, I think that this is missing one party, namely the NC, which is the accused in this sense, as I think it's very important that NCs, even though they are indirectly represented through the BNC board, I think it's also very valuable for NCs to have a direct input on this panel and to be able to be part of this conversation, since it is often very important to them, and since they often have their own unique insights that might be a bit more difficult for the BNC board to portray in this panel. So this is specifically about point 10 on the extended panel.
Thank you, Netherlands. Next up is Ireland.
Well, yeah, so thank you, EIP Netherlands, for putting the point I was about to make way more succinctly than I ever could. I think it's important just for the GB or to be clear on what their stance is, what they intend. Do they want the offending party or the non-compliant National Committee to be a part of that process, or if they don't? Because that would form, I think that if anything, that is one part of the proposal that would be kind of need to be discussed or could change minds depending on what the stance and the intention is. So whatever it is, I think it should be included in clause 10. So if they could just clarify that position, that'd be great.
Thank you, Ireland. Next up is Armenia.
Thank you. I just have a question regarding the inclusion of time as a component that is up to the GB to decide. Not trying to be dramatic, but for the past months, we have seen a drastic difference of how do we comprehend the urgency of certain situations. And given that it's very much up to the interpretation of the GB to decide what is a reasonable time limit or how much time is given to the NC that violated or is trying to get back to the values of UIP provided by the GB. It's kind of a question that I want to ask regarding, is it possible for you to include an amendment here that will basically limit the longest amount of time possible? Say it's possible to have less than 4 weeks, 5 weeks, but have a maximum, because sometimes some topics require a more relaxed approach, while other topics, especially deriving from some political situations, constitute a more approach that is needed to be acted upon more swiftly.
Thank you, Armenia. We will now go back to the proposing entity.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, everyone, for your comments. So I will take them in order, if that's okay. The first question was, why would the national committees not be included in the discussion, if I understood it correctly? So overall, as it stands now, the governing body is the sole body in the EYP that's responsible for judging a compliance of an NC. As such, we don't think that it's needed or even either possible or even positive to have others NC join into the debate, because sometimes we have different interpretations. The idea of this extended panel is just to judge if the GB was being objective in its approach. The idea is not to have different members come in, but it's really to have the vision from members that are already in the structures of international governance give their own opinion of the things. And then it comes back to the GB to really discuss things and to see if the NC was compliant or not. So as it stands now, the GB is the sole body responsible for judging compliance. And we keep it this way in this policy. And I think it's something that has worked over the years because it's something that the GB is directly involved with. And with an NC compliance officer within the GB, I think that they're the most capable of dealing with the situations in a timely manner. Now, we don't exclude the possibility to have other NC representatives, but I think it will create a disbalance and even either disagreements or maybe a biased approach if we include only one side of the NCs, and then it turns out that one NC had a special interest in keeping this. So for the sake of keeping this as transparent as unbiased process as possible, we try to have elected bodies within the international governance, plus the executive director or somebody who is charged within the IO to really give their interpretation of the subject. But overall, the GB remains the sole body able to discuss whether an NC is compliant or not. It's just that we like to hear different opinions from people who are directly concerned in either making the policy or adapting the policy, or those that have seen it enact in the past. For Luke's, for EOP's Ireland's comments on clarifying whether the NC that is being analyzed would be included in the panel, I think that the panel itself, no, but I think that continuous communication with the NC should be ensured. It's never an idea to have a process with them. I don't think that we are a legal body either in the strict sense of the word, just that we try to have a clear communication, and then we decide within the three bodies, so the BNC board, the GB, and the IO, what to do. But overall, while remaining in constant contact with the NC and really having a constructive approach to dealing with NC compliance, to bring back NCs into compliance, as opposed to, I guess, shutting them out and deciding on their future. And last point from Gore from EOP Armenia was inclusion of time and interpretation of the time limit. I think that that's a very valid question, and that's why we kind of left it open for the possibilities of the GB. I think that you all know that as volunteers, we are very constrained to time possibilities, and it turns out that at certain periods, the GB is more available, while at others, it's less so. Furthermore, with a lot of the GB members being either employed full-time or studying masters or even both at times, it's really difficult to have an exact date when we can have such proceedings. So that's why we kind of leave a more leeway room for possibilities, but also it depends on what the NC compliance is about. I think that certain NC compliance can be fixed really easily, and there are certain things that can be fixed over even a couple of calls or one call, and we really set out what are the possibilities to go back into compliance. But there are other issues that are more structural. And I think that with the annual review mechanism that will be developed over the years, we can really start to see what are some of the pitfalls of certain NCs in a more structural manner. So maybe it turns out that an NC has an inherently problematic structure when it comes to, for example, sending delegates, this is just an example I have, it's really on top of my mind, it's nothing that we've seen before. Overall, something that's structural would need a lot more time. So maybe in that case, we would maybe even use a GB associate to try and help out the NC in coming back to compliance. But overall, limiting it to a couple of weeks, I don't think that it's feasible, both from the GB side, as it's, even though we're only 6 people, it's still a slow body because we're more focused on the strategic development as opposed to operational aspects of NC compliance. And furthermore, it really depends on the issue. So for now, I would, as the spokesperson, I would leave it as is. And we, of course, try to keep it as short as possible in both the interest of the NC, but also all of the international governance. And that will be it from this round of questions.
Thank you, Nicola. We will now welcome EOP Greece to debate. Glad to have you, Greece, and glad to see some new names up in the list.
Thank you very much. At this point, I would like to bring to the table kind of an idea, which is based in the spirit of, I see a lot of national committees being interested to kind of engage themselves into the process of getting committees back. And I feel it would be a very nice and very welcomed by EOP Greece if this procedure became a bit more open to the whole BNC, rather than having the GB the exclusive competence over it.
And we have a direct response from Italy. Italy are recognized.
Exactly on this point, I wanted to add that since many NCs have showed interest, as it is just being said, maybe we could include a consultation. So maybe the BNC could give a non-binding opinion on a certain discussion. Maybe this would fit our needs and we could reach a compromise on this fact.
Thank you, Italy. We will now give the point to Sweden.
Thank you very much. I do want to emphasize that a lot of good points has been brought forward, and those could definitely be implemented in the future. As it stands now, it seems as if the proposal is moving through the right direction. It's positive as opposed to the the charter itself, because as it stands now, GB is the main responsible. Having said that, I have a question regarding the extended board. I'm not sure what the name was, but my question is, how will the decision making be within that extended board? Ultimately, it is the GB that is responsible, but will that extended board be like a consultation between the GB, BNC board, IO, and executive director? Or will it be consensus based, relative majority? A clarity on that note would be appreciated.
Okay, next up we will have EYP Switzerland, and then we will go back to the proposing entity.
Thank you so much. We just had a question about the creation of the position of NC Compliance Officer and what the GB's thoughts are on vesting this responsibility in one person. And yeah.
Amazing. Then I guess I can take it forward. Is that okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. So thank you all. Thank you, EYP Greece, for the idea. So as of now, as it stands for the, I think it's, I applaud that many NCs want to be involved in this. And I think that there's a way that NCs can be involved with this. I think that with what we're developing now, which is the annual review mechanism, I think that there's a possibility for NCs to help each other in achieving compliance. But as it stands now, of course, we're very open to any proposals, but the idea is to have a very fast resolution of the problem. And so we've seen it by the BNC itself, is that it has a lot of procedures, because if it doesn't have a lot of procedures, it can create chaos. So for that only sake, that's why we try to limit the number of members within the panel as well. But we remain open for having NCs directly involved in the, for example, future development of the review mechanism of NCs. But for the strict concept of non-compliance and bringing back NCs to compliance, I think it's the GB's mandate, and that's why it was elected to really work on that with the GB. I think that you are very busy, all of you very busy with running your own NCs, and at times it can be very difficult to help others as well. So we have certain ideas how to implement, and I think it's going to be very welcome for upcoming BNCs. I think that maybe even Nikos, you can take it forward for next year and propose how we can do an annual review of NCs. But for now, for the strict concept of non-compliance, I think the GB is both the swiftest body that can handle it, and also the only one competent for now. I fear that by involving too many members, it becomes too slow and too bureaucratic. So our idea now is to really solve the problem, and then we can talk with other NCs how to establish a more sustainable solution. For the question on the extended panel and how would the decision-making take place, so overall, we adopt the same strategy as EYP does in general. We take a consensus-based approach. So we always try to include both the opinions of all of those involved in international strategy. And I think that's very important in this case. So it's going to be more of a consensus-based idea. So we have the ED from one side, that's very, Anya in this case, that has been involved in EYP for a long time, and she has even been a governing body member. So she can bring on her ideas as well. And we also have the BNC board that was elected directly by you, the NCs. So I think that overall we would try to aim for consensus, and that's going to be the guiding principle of this extended panel. Lastly, for EYP Switzerland, concerning the NC compliance officer. So the idea of this NC compliance officer is just to really put a stamp on the person. For now, there was already a person that was directly involved with NCs. That would have been me for this year. But overall, we just put a stamp, and that's where all the questions and remarks go to. So that person responsible for taking in all the comments and really treating them, analyzing them, and then addressing the situation. I think that it's important to have one person that brings everything forward, because if not, we'll be, as the GB will fall into a sort of delegating task between each other. So now with having an individual GB member be responsible for this, we eliminate this, any pitfalls that might happen in the transition between GB members. And I don't think it changes any drastically from what the system was already. I think the system was already like that. We have one person that's taking the project ahead, except now we have a stamp for the person, and we have somewhere where we address the letters as well. So if there is a case of non-compliance, the NC compliance officer is the one that we address those questions to. I hope that answers your question, Miri. Wonderful.
Yes, thank you. Now we have 7 minutes left, so we can have another very quick round. And the countries for this round are Armenia, Ireland, and Sweden, but please be aware of the time limits. Yes, you have the floor. Armenia?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm just sorry for this kind of informal consultation type of questioning. I just think of another thing that may be added here as well. It's the fact that, as you mentioned, sometimes there are some issues that are very easily resolved, but sometimes issues that can be potentially very easily resolved stretch out in time. And here there is nothing that is kind of pointing out towards the number of breaches allowed in a given time period. This is, I think, important because while a lot of national committees, I'm not saying people do that, but let's say hypothetically someone breaches the charter or does something that is very much against the values of EYP, and then they are brought back on the course of the righteous path with the help of GB, and then they do it again, and then they do it again. I know that we have written that continuous violation is not something that is tolerable. However, I think it would be great if it could have metrics as well here. And the question that I'm raising is that when we were discussing this in the board of EYP Armenia, we decided that it would be great to have this run for 6 months until the next BNC, and then see if we have any amends there. I'm just trying to get your opinion and yeah, listen to that with the BNC.
EYP Ireland, please be quick.
Yeah, okay, I'll be super quick. I suppose there's a cliche saying that like everyone has a few bad eggs. This proposal looks at situations and suspends entire NCs based on maybe the actions of like the committee of the executive committee of a national committee, so like the board, for example. I'm just wondering what the rationale was from your guys, because I presume it came up in conversations about like, you know, how could we maybe help members of an NC maybe replace or deal with these issues that might be going on, like a kind of upper end of their own NCs. Obviously there's an infringement maybe of autonomy and stuff like that, but sometimes like you could punish a lot of people for something that maybe the board of one NC does, and that could further disenfranchise them. And maybe a bottom-up or more grassroots approach could be appreciated in the future, or if there's future discussions on the matter. Thank you for recognizing.
Okay, maybe we lost Linda due to connection issues. So let's take the final point from EYP France before moving back to the GB to close the debate off.
Thank you. My question was about if, for instance, as member, I notice a breach from a national committee, what should I do at the end of the day? And beyond that, don't you fear that we are kind of building a network based on mistrust instead of privileging development of our network with such a policy?
Thank you very much. And now Nicola, use these 2.5 minutes wisely.
Okay, so Armenia, I'll be very quick, seeing that Stefan made a number of breaches. So we really underlined the fundamental concept of it. So we don't have certain words for it or numbers for it. If it's a fundamental breach of it and there's no way to deal with it in another format, be it via dispute resolution or be it via friendly comments, then we use this policy. So it's really in the case where it's a grave and really contradictory to EYP values or EYP functioning, and then we interfere with this non-compliance mechanism. Luke, why do we punish people from the board? So the idea is we first of all don't punish them. We give them possibilities to resolve these issues, but seeing that in a lot of times they're the ones that are responsible for running the NC, and they're the sole ones that are taking the organization forward, this is a way for us to really reprimand them. And as you say, we don't want to be creating coup d'etats in different NCs and having board changes. I don't think that that's very structurally sound for a lot of NCs. But overall, if we first we go into dialogue with the NCs, then we inform the BNC of the outcome. As you know, this is a very open structure so that the others are informed as well. And hence the members of each NC will be informed as well. And if that happens, if they still are non-compliant, then we pronounce a suspension. And depending on the internal rules of each NC, then the members will have the right to change the board members. I think that we don't want to impede on any NC's autonomy. I think that you all are very important to have your own rules and your own regulations, how you deal with these things. Except that if we notice a clear and fundamental violation of the charter, we have to intervene from a top-down approach. So if the top is not working, then we can see what else to do. I would be against having grassroots approach, seeing that both it would be very detrimental to the time that the GB spends, seeing who would be able to take up a new board, who will be favorable to do this. And I think it's also very individualistic. So why privilege one member over another? The idea is that the NC boards are responsible to their members, and so they should answer to them and in its entirety and not certain members. And lastly, merci UAP France. So if a member has any questions, they address them to the NC compliance officer. So for example, if you notice that there has been an unfair election within your organization, or for example, if UAP Malta only has one member that elects himself as president, then we would interfere in that. Overall, that's why, and also I applaud UAP Sweden for including that. That's why we need a rationale, an exact explanation of why the NC member feels that this is a violation of the charter, and then the GB interferes and really analyzes the whole situation in its entirety, and not just taking one member's opinion, but really analyzing the whole situation, both structurally, but also in relations to other information that we have. I hope that was under 2 minutes.
Yes, it is exactly 6. That means that this debate is over. As told before, we will be voting via the list. So make sure to cast your NC's vote accordingly. Also, if this passes into a policy, you can already make amendments to this at the next meeting, just letting you guys know. And I will now give it up to David, and he will go on.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last debate of the day. And the last debate was proposed by UIP the Netherlands, and it's about durable participant involvement. So how we can get participants to stay involved more than just 1 or 2 sessions as a delegate, and how do we get them to cross the bridge into being officials. I could go into it, but I think it'd be even better if the person that proposed the topic would go into it. So if Mr. Eric Kukin is ready for it, I would pass him the word for him to present his proposal.
Yes, thank you, David. I might as well just start off. Yeah, so the statement of debate is quite clear. This is very much a debate in which we want to get ideas, want to get inspired. I know that I am getting a bit tired, but if we could just get energetic for one last round before we hit our late dinner times, then that would be amazing. So this is a debate to look into, okay, so what methods do we use in UIP? I know that quite a few NCs use different methods, and we want to look more into those and see, hey, which ones can we use, which ones use, both in COVID and non-COVID times. So could you go to the next slide, please? Perfect. Yeah, so the history of proposal, as you all know, this is something durable participant involvement, keeping people active within your NC is something that every NC struggles with. So of course, many measures have already been taken at the NC level. As far as I know, on an international level, we do ISs as a form of keeping people involved. We do workshops, and of course, we have capacity building, funding, and things like that. But if I look at my own NC, I think there's still quite a bit of improvement to be made, as there's still plenty of first-time participants who stop doing UIP after 1 or 2 goes. Hence why this proposal came. Could you go to the next one, please? Perfect, yeah. So the idea is to split this debate in 2, and ideally I would ask the BNC board to help us with the timing of that. Perfect, I see 2 thumbs up. So firstly, I would like to do 1 or 2 rounds, depending on the time, on non-COVID measures. So basically measures that you think could happen or that are maybe already in place in your NC. In non-COVID, that work in non-COVID times, so when we don't have the sticky virus. And then I think it could be beneficial to have like a short round of knowledge sharing on things that you can do during these times, maybe digitally, maybe say physical measures to do durable, to keep our participants involved in UIP. Yes, thank you. Maybe on to the next one. Yes. Yeah, so ideally looking at this, most of this will be action that you can undertake at an NC level, not necessarily something that we would need to do on an international level. But if we notice that, hey, there might still be a world of knowledge to be gained here, then it might be beneficial to create a working group on this. Yeah, so this was more or less the short rundown of what I hope to talk about in the upcoming 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, UIP the Netherlands. We had 3 statements, but I believe they've been reduced to 2 statements because UIP Sweden will no longer be making theirs. But I would still love to hear from UIP Belgium and UIP Spain if you still have statements. And so with that said, UIP Belgium, I now give you the floor. Ilse, I believe we cannot hear you. So for technical difficulties' sake, I would maybe give the word first to Spain then, and hopefully during Spain's statement, we can figure out what's up with Belgium's microphone. And so UIP Spain, I would give you the floor then to you.
Thank you. So what UIP Spain basically wanted to say is that we have also detected the problem that UIP the Netherlands has described so well, where participants in sessions that have like a very big potential don't further involve themselves in the organization after 2-3 sessions, or going to their international session the most and like then not doing anything else within the NC. However, we also believe that so far the cause of this has not been the lack of event availability, which has been mentioned in the original proposal booklet, but which perhaps may be a problem now with the whole COVID situation, but we think that so far that hasn't been it. What we think is more the cause of this lack of involvement is that new members don't get informed properly on the opportunities that UIP has and how they can get involved within their NCs and also outside of their NCs, apart from sessions, which many new members have this misconception, that UIP is all about sessions when there is a bunch of other opportunities of how to get involved in the organization. So yeah, and what we have been doing in UIP Spain for the past years, and we will especially like put a lot of emphasis on that this year, is through a team we call Team Join Us, which is a practice we wanted to share with other NCs. We sort of provide a compulsory training to all new members of our organization, where they get informed of tools such as the members platform, Facebook groups. They are asked what they envision UIP could bring to them, and based on that we also give them advice on what they can do and what roles they can adopt both in sessions and outside of sessions. With our national committee, for example, we promote a lot our working groups within our NC, such as we have an IT working group. We also have one for teachers manager, which is something I also will discuss in a debate tomorrow about teachers relationship. But yeah. And yeah, finally, what we wanted to highlight is also that it is important at the same time to find a balance of not only wanting members to get super involved, because what happens then and what has happened in UIP Spain in the past, and it's even bigger of a problem than the one UIP Netherlands has brought to the discussion, is that by hyping our events so much and wanting our members to involve themselves so much, many of them actually also leave early after 5 events, for example, because they get so burnt out from the 2 events they go to as an officials, because they go directly into head organizing, for example, which in our case is also maybe due to the big number of regionals we have, where new members are like forced to head organize regionals. But yeah, it's just a thing that we think is important to consider in this.
Okay, thank you very much, Spain, for agreeing with the Netherlands that this is in fact an important issue of the network, and also by sharing a bit of your experience and best practices that you do in UIP Spain. I thought that was a lovely statement and very productive. I would then ask if UIP Belgium has maybe figured out a way to deliver their statement.
Yeah, I don't know what went wrong there, but we don't have a statement, so I don't know how it could be mentioned.
Okay, that's no problem.
Delivering a statement, so we have nothing to say.
No problem. Then we will just cut your statement as well. And in that case, before we move on to the debate, I would like to give the proposing entity, so UIP the Netherlands, a chance to reply to UIP Spain's statement. So if you could give a quick reply, Eric, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for your, I think it's a good free statement. I think it's a good kickoff for the debate, as this is something that I hope we'll see more in the debate, where you have concrete examples and maybe even the downside of those examples. For instance, your case of too much involvement was very, not something I expected, but something that adds to the debate in that sense. So I would definitely love to hear more of those specific participant involvement, and then trying to do that in a durable way, so they don't get burned out. Examples, that would be amazing. Let's start off with the non-COVID ones, so the ones we did before 2020 in that sense.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so as Eric has perfectly introduced, I would now open the rounds of debate. And as requested by the proposing entity, at least for this first round, I would like to say focus mainly on measures that NCs can take or should take in a normal year, so not in 2020, and how you normally in physical events try to retain delegates and ensure that you maintain a durable participation. And we have a lot of hands popping up, which is great. And the first point we will take is from Czech Republic.
Yep, thank you. Just a quick question, or I wasn't sure if you mean retaining participants after they attend a session, or like already retaining them before, so there's a lot of participants in the sessions. Because for example, for us, what we're trying to do is that we also have this problem that after attending 1 session or 2 sessions, they leave because they're not interested in the organization anymore, or even in attending EYP stuff. So what we're trying to do is actually offer different things for them. So since for us, in essence, EYP is a professional organization. It's not just a bunch of friends coming together and doing sessions. So we're trying to expand our portfolio. We're trying to bring in-house days, recruitment with companies, trainings, workshops, connections with alumni, and even with other student organizations, so that the things we offer is much broader. And one reason why we're doing this is also because of the finances. It's all linked together, because if we have this offer and we have proper members, then the companies come to us and they want to cooperate with us even long term and offer cooperations. So I think it's all linked together, those things that we're discussing here. But that's one of the things that we're doing, is trying to expand our reach and the things that we offer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Czech Republic. I believe that was the first point that you made today in an open debate, and so I wanted to thank you for that. And I want to welcome another new face to this BNC meeting, and so I would then recognize UIP Norway.
Yes, thank you. So touching about what's been already said, I think a really important point is just making sure they have something lined up. be it an IS or something from IF, or like as a delegate abroad, or roles in local branches or local boards as we have in Europe and Norway, or make sure you have an open call to a session right about the time that like your knots are finishing up or something about that. But I would also like, there's two big buts to it, is that, as EYP Spain said, do not give them too big roles. Do not like be like, oh, you did great as a stats, go be a head organizer, because they might burn out. But also I'm quite skeptical of organizing non-EYP events, like things that are not sessions, as people joined for the sessions, even though those stuff are easier to organize. That might not be why they joined EYP.
Okay, thank you very much, Norway. And maintaining the theme of new faces, we have a point from Portugal. So EYP Portugal, you are recognized.
Hi. Yeah, we're working on kind of like an EYP Portugal guidebook, because I think the main issue that we all have is that when delegates come in, or I mean new members that were delegates, since they don't know what's going on and they kind of just parachute in, then they don't really know like what to do next. So what we did last year was we had like a mentorship program in which our members, our older members, signed up and they could like mentor a new member. And that, I mean, it worked kind of well because some of them didn't actually do anything. But with the ones that did, it was good because like they had like an instant friend and someone to rely on. But yeah, now we're doing an EYP Portugal guidebook, which is basically, it explains like the members platform, our Slack platform, and like who the board is and everything. And yeah, like I think that's hopefully gonna be more useful. And also in members weekends, we're also like, we do a lot of team building and stuff so that like the new members kind of feel included. So yeah, that's what we do.
Okay, thank you so much, Portugal. And we've had 3 speakers already, so I would throw it back to the proposing entity to kind of round up all of the interesting best practices that were shared this round. So EYP the Netherlands, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you for all these interesting points. I think especially from EYP Czech Republic to branch out in a sense to more professional opportunities would be interesting, although I think it could also change the DNA of your organization as it is as a whole. So this might also be something that to look out for, also for funding and stuff, right? If you do too much professional stuff, then how much are you a youth organization anymore? And then with EYP Norway, with making sure that having things lined up, I think this is something that is something that we inherently do in EYP anyway, right? We try to spread out our events, at least in the Netherlands we try to do this. It doesn't always work out that well, but this is, I think it's especially a good point to make sure that the delegates have somewhere where they can go to, either as an official, either as a volunteer, when they are done with their normal run of sessions. So normally this would be the nationals, right? So I think that's a very good point. And then also something like why do people even join EYP? I think that's also something that I personally think is quite difficult to actually nail down, as many people would just, I mean, I know for me personally that I just started doing EYP and was like, well, heck, I will see if I like it. And not necessarily having a very specific reason for it. And also the roles that you can do after being a delegate are inherently different from being a delegate. Being a journalist is very different than being a delegate at a session. So in that sense, I think this is something that we need to better communicate to our delegates when like, hey, you can continue doing EYP, but it will be completely different. But this might also be a new opportunity to get to know yourself better rather than doing more EYP. But I would gladly pass it on to the next round of debate, David. I'm very happy with the responses so far.
Yes, and I would suggest, Eric, please a thumbs up if you approve that we do one more round of normal year policies, because we do have a lot of hands up and I'm interested to see what everyone has to say. Great, I did get a thumbs up. And so in that case, I'll maintain the theme of new faces and pass it to EYP Austria, who's also trying to make a point. So Austria, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So what we've done in EYP Austria is that we've established a buddy system, which basically means that there's a call once a year, I think, where more experienced Europeans can apply and volunteer to become a a body, so to speak, to take care of a body. And so new members of UOP Austria, or new delegates that have very little experience, get allocated to a more experienced UOP, and the more experienced UOP then invites the body to socializings, and they sometimes just go to socializing together and really just get them involved. And I think it's a really good system because it's very personal, and it's not this too professional, too scary kind of atmosphere, but it's a very, very friendly atmosphere that's created.
Thank you very much, Austria, for sharing your best practices and also giving some feedback on them. And I would then, continuing with new faces, we had 5 new faces in a row, so I'm very, very happy. And I will pass it on to UIP Germany.
Thank you very much for recognizing us. I'm back in share mode. It's incredible. But what we were trying to say is that for UIP Germany, unfortunately, it's the case that we are known a little bit for producing a lot of organizers rather than other officials. So for us, it's been very important to also dive into chairs, media team, jury. And for that, last year at last year's nationals, we decided to offer a officials help desk during the Resotyping night. So what was happening, we had the GA help desk, but we also had the officials help desk, where we introduced the different roles at the session, because for us, it's we believe that delegates oftentimes don't understand what the officials' roles entail. And in this officials help desk, we try to bring those roles a little closer to the delegates, and we hope that through that we were able to introduce officials' roles so that we are able to decrease the hindrance in going into the officials' life a little bit, make it a little bit smaller, the hindrance. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Germany. And then I will take another point from UIP Greece. UIP Greece, you're recognized.
Thank you. I think there was a direct response, so I don't know if it was for this part of the debate from Finland.
It was for this part of debate.
Then I am very sorry, I did not see your direct response, Finland. I have the participants open and not the chat. Thank you very much, Greece, for passing your turn. I'll get back to you, but for now, I will take the direct response from Finland then.
Okay, well, thank you. To add on top of that, officials help desk in our last nationals, we actually, for every single delegate, held a module about how to apply to be an official. So going through the steps of how to apply, what is members platform, actually helping them register on member platform, and actually using the quite brilliant Austria's application guidelines. I think they're on their website, and they're pretty useful, and we kind of gave them for all the delegates, so it would be a bit easier to then transition into being official. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Finland. Sorry once again for not seeing a direct response before. As there are no direct responses now, I will then, as promised, go back to Greece.
Great, thank you. I think it's so important that EYP the Netherlands has brought this to discussion. And the thing that I was thinking about as we were speaking about this is that maybe we should elaborate a bit more as NCs on the cultural differences we have when it comes to delegates leaving the sessions. For example, what I've noticed in Greece, and after having spoken to some delegates quite a bit, because, well, it is a selection session after all, many consider this to be a very competitive kind of program, which EYP admittedly is not. So when they do realize that, they do lose interest as well. However, we have some other people who get very discouraged from the selection process, and when they do not make it there, it feels like the end for EYP for them, which is not exactly the case on how it works in EYP, but it's more of a mentality issue. The thing that we have started doing a bit more in recent sessions is that for every opening and closing ceremony we have in our events, we always try to integrate a bit about roles and maybe platforms and how they can communicate with us as the NC board, which is pretty much a standard template we now use. And this could be also done in a network-wide way. So we would have a shared template for that. Maybe it's going to help each other. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that although we're not strictly speaking about, the COVID era kind of tackling issues. However, I think that digital sessions have been very helpful in giving delegates the next step to do something more, because usually it's so frightening to get into a session without knowing about stuff. And especially when you're there to do it physically, it can be quite intimidating. Getting the more digital approach at first hand and doing something smaller but also impactful, I think I've seen great steps in how people evolve in the organization this way. Maybe this could be something that we could work with as we move forward, even after COVID.
Yes, thank you very much, Greece. I do see a direct response from UIP the Netherlands, but I also see that they do not want to do it because, in fact, I am going to pass it back to UIP the Netherlands to wrap up this round of debate. And so, Eric, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so thank you once again for all the points, especially from UIP Austria and then Finland and Germany on the help desk and the buddy systems. I think that these are relatively easy to implement and can already have a big percent, or well, a big effect. Especially, I mean, even if you get, let's say, 10% more delegates involved, then that can already be those 3, 4, 5, 6 persons that could make a big impact on your NC, as many NC boards are run by 5 to 6 persons. So I think that these are steps that would be interesting to take, also for the Netherlands. And then touching on IPA Greece, and then the issue of cultural diversity, but also on competitiveness, which I think has right, two sides of the coin, as you say, right? Some people like the competition, join UIP for the competition, but there are also a lot of people who are kind of turned off by it, or who simply stop because they think, well, the competition is over, then what's the point in continuing anymore? In UIP the Netherlands, we have tried to reshape our selection criteria to make this more oriented towards growing personal skills, and in that way we want to emphasize those values as an UIP organization, right? So we want to be about personal growth and not about debating skills in that sense. So by taking these steps, you can already try to reshape that image a bit. While there's still steps to take, this is something that we have been starting up. And that's worked so far. And what also helps is if you don't actually do like the selection of the delegates on the day of the session, right, or on the night of the session, but let them but do it like a week later or so, so delegates can experience the session for what it is rather than for the result, selection result. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, UIP the Netherlands, for perfectly addressing all of the points made and all the suggestions made. I would now, for time's sake, have a small round on COVID-related measures and how how NCs have been dealing with participants, ensuring that participants stay involved, obviously during a hard time where it's hard to develop physical events. And so what I would ask you to do is, if you have a point, if you don't have a point specifically related to COVID measures, I would ask you to lower your hand, please. And if all of these people still have points, okay, that's great. I see some hands going down, but we still have quite a lot of them up, which is great. It's nice to see that people are staying involved and also trying to address this problem, even in the face of new problems. And so with that said, I will take the first point from Norway. Oh, I have 2 Norways, however. Norway, could you please figure out which of you has a point that they would like to do first? And in the meantime, I'm going to give it to UIP Germany then. Sorry. So UIP Germany, if you want, the floor is yours.
Thank you again. So what we've been doing in COVID times is that every Sunday we have like a NC hangout where the members get together and just like socialize together. But it's also the case that we did like trainings, like officials trainings online to encourage the delegates that we had at the regional that took place, that we can also get them into the official EYP life, and this has been a little bit successful. We had hoped for more participation from the delegates, but making use of online trainings was something that we were able to do in the face of COVID.
Okay, thank you very much, Lena. I'm sorry, Norway, if it seemed like I was putting you against each other, and I hope you didn't fight too hard over this, but hoping that you know who is going to speak, I will then recognize UIP Norway.
Okay, thank you for recognizing me. Yeah, so for us as well, this is like COVID has been a huge problem because we had to cancel one of our regional sessions, we had to cancel our national session, which is where we get most of our new members from. And so this kind of cycle of new members coming in has been disrupted. And now we are also planning for our regional sessions, which we still don't know if they're going to be online or not, which is what we have to prepare for. But what I do think has been really beneficial from this COVID-19 is this move toward digital solutions. So for example, Norway is a very big country. It's kind of hard to get around. You have to fly everywhere. And so, you know, not everyone wants to go to this like huge training in another city far away. And so it's a lot more like the threshold to join these kind of trainings has been lowered significantly, which I think would be very beneficial to do, not only like because we have a summer training before the national session, but we have discussed whether it would be possible to have a winter session before the regional session so that delegates from the national sessions can maybe join that and then feel encouraged to participate as officials in a regional session. However, a physical training would be kind of hard. So I think like having a winter session but in digital format would be pretty, like I think that would be beneficial because that would also make it easier for new delegates, new delegates who want to become like more full-time members and officials in EYP to have this sort of digital format. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Norway. I think you mentioned a lot of problems that I'm sure most NC representatives here can relate to. And so it's nice to have a small conversation on that as well. And I will take one final point in the non-COVID round, and I would ask it to be please as concise as possible. And I'm gonna pass it to Ireland. So UIP Ireland, if you want, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, so EYP Ireland, basically, like we've always had regional councils, so we split up our country, and then we have like a head of each regional council, so that keeps engagement because people are in like a position within their region and they can organize kind of formal and informal events within that. But then during COVID, we organized coffee hours, so with different organizations, so like Asylum Seekers Ireland and the Irish Traveller Movement and stuff. And that means that you kind of get delegations from organizations, so it's not completely just geared towards like a competitive nature, it's more an inclusive, like informative nature of our events. And then something we also did that kind of depends on the restrictions in your country in COVID, we did like a picnics in the park series. So there was social distancing and masks, but everyone could kind of meet up within their areas in a park 2 meters apart and just kind of catch up and have an informal chat about all things EYP and stuff like that. And then my last point, to try and be as concise as possible, is recognizing trends kind of within the younger generations in EYP in your country. So what we noticed massively is that, you know, the 15 and 16-year-olds that are joining EYP Ireland now don't really use Facebook. They're trying to find other platforms that are more like relevant for them on which to engage with them and organize and publicize these events that we are running. Yeah, thank you.
So in a very European Youth Parliament mode, I have to say, kids these days and their technologies. And with that, I would pass it for UIP the Netherlands for one small round of this COVID round. If you could keep it concise, I would like to try and squeeze in one final round. So Eric, if you could not drag this on for long, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Especially your input. I was expecting a lot of digital input, but it's also very refreshing to see that there are still physical ways to do ERP, of course, depending on your local measures. As I have noticed that people do find it quite valuable to get together if there is a possibility. For the last round of debate, apart from more COVID measures, I was also wondering if any of you have any input on how to bring this forward, because I personally see already many things that we could do within our NC, and that would take us at least another half year to see if we get somewhere. But I could imagine that it might also be beneficial to create a working group or something that's a bit more systematic if there is a need for that. So I would like to hear some opinions on that if possible, and otherwise COVID is also quite fine.
Yes, we are exactly on the same page, because that's why I wanted to squeeze in a last small round of debate, which is to ask for the opinions on next steps, particularly the next step suggested by UIP the Netherlands about the creation of a BNC working group on this issue. One thing that I would like points to keep in mind, if you have any suggestions for it, is that I'd like to remind everyone that the creation of a working group has to have a specific end goal. And so if you want to maybe suggest what that end goal might be, I think that'd be a great point to have. And with that said, I see 2 hands up. I'm going to give the word to UIP France.
Thank you, David. Yeah, in the context of COVID-19, I think we to keep our network really strong, we have to have the sense of belonging really strong. But we can't do much many physical events. So what we have made in France, it's to create a new project in where the members can do EYP like kind of every day. So we created the program OpenVox, which provide a debate booklet for members in order to let them debate in their high schools. So it's all during the year, and so they really feel a part EYP, and it's also really local, as Vilde said earlier. So it's really nice to create a strong network with provide a really willingness to continue EYP and to participate then to events, physical or digital, when there is events that are announced by the network.
Okay, thank you so much, UIP France, for sharing some more best practices. I would then, because I see only 1 hand up, give the word to UIP Switzerland. And just as a reminder, it'd be great if we could have some kind of opinion on the possible creation of a working group. And so UIP Switzerland, with that in mind, I would give you the floor.
Thank you very much. That was exactly what I was going to bring up. I personally think, or we personally think, that creating a working group is not necessarily the most efficient and necessary way to tackle this. I would rather suggest to come up with some sort of knowledge sharing platform, either, for example, through a Slack channel or a Google Drive folder or something like that, where NCs can share their practices or guides or whatever they are doing to retain delegates. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, UIP Switzerland, for a new suggestion on possible next steps to kind of as an alternative to the working group. I don't want to risk running out of time, so I think I'm just gonna stop the points here. Sorry, France, but you already had a chance to speak in this round of debate as well, so I hope you don't mind too much. And with that said, I will then bring it back to UIP the Netherlands to just wrap up this debate.
Yes, so I want to thank you for the input that all of you had. I think there are quite a few. Our alumni coordinator is going to be busy in the next few weeks trying to see which of the things that we can implement in our own NC, both digitally and maybe more long-term physically. And in terms of working group, as there does not seem to be a lot of enthusiasm, which I completely understand, we already have plenty of working groups. I think it's fine it would be nice if we could create, I think, a Google Sheet or somewhere where you can just quite easy share your best practices and where HR coordinates or alumni coordinates or member coordinates or whatever you call them in your own respective country can go into to get a bit of inspiration and to get inspired and to continue being motivated and trying to find new ways to do their work.
All right. Thank you so much, UIP the Netherlands. Right. Yes, I see France has put their hands back up. I guess we do have time for one more point. So even though this was already kind of a nice wrap up, sure, let's hear what UIP France has to say.
Just about the working group thing, I really invite all the NC to use the already existing platform. There is president's meeting, there are president's meetings, there are regional cluster meetings to share practices. So definitely there are a lot of places to share what we all do in this harsh time. And maybe to finish, I remember a fantastic discussion we had in Berlin 2 BNC meetings ago. It was a topic of debate brought by Noura from the GB about the role of selection in EYP, and with an outstanding pyramid with the members we reach at the bottom and the member engage at the top. And it was really demonstrative. So I really invite you to go back to check the minutes of the discussion. And it was really, really nice talk.
Nice, thank you very much. That's a very good point to bring up past history of the BNC. And we apparently are not done quite yet because we have a direct response from the international office. So international office, if you want, the floor is yours.
Yeah, sure. Oh, sorry, we have a bit of time. Okay. So, yeah, I thank you, Michelle, for your last point. I actually take it as an opportunity to remind you that we would have a webinar on the digital formats and hybrids, and kind of a little bit a similar topic on the 6th of November. So that would be great if you join, and then all the materials usually are up on the platforms, and we also have the president's meeting. So you're right that that's also an existing platform. And also Laura and I now quickly had a chat, and we might even set up a Google Doc already today or tomorrow and post it on Slack for all of you, just to quickly summarize these ideas. And you could just be very fast with a picnic or happy hour, whatever your NC dealt with, and it might be a very easy way to deal with it without long-term commitment from your side. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Anya. And then I guess you already wrapped up, but if you want to say just some nice final quick words, Netherlands, or.
No, I ordered my fries and they should be here in like 5 minutes.
I understand your priorities, and we'll let us finish on Anya's point then. Thank you very much, Michelle, as well. And there are in fact a lot of existing platforms. The BNC is also one of them, so we can for sure share our best practices in debates such as this one, which I hope was productive for everyone. In case, as suggested by UIP Switzerland and approved by UIP the Netherlands, you want to maybe share your best practices in a more kind of physical support, such as a spreadsheet or a Slack channel, feel free to reach out to the BNC board, and we'll be happy to help in setting up anything that you might need. With that said, I believe we have reached the end of this debate, which means I believe we have reached the end of the day. And so one final round of Zoom applause with the hand emoji thing for everyone. Wait, I want to do it as well. Great. And I want to thank everyone for such a productive day. I know particularly the debate on the UIP finance structure might have taken a toll on everyone. Ironically, haha, tolls, get it, fine. And I hope everyone enjoyed themselves as much as me. I think the BNC board is quite happy with how today turned out, and wanted to thank everyone for being so constructive today and for keeping meetings so interesting. A final organizational reminder that the time changes today, so we get 1 extra hour of sleep, which means if you want to go out tonight and stick to UIP's alcohol policy, you are free to do so, and you'll be able to join us tomorrow with 1 extra hour of sleep. And if so, I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for more productive debates.
Yeah. Another organizational announcement from the IO to stay for a second for a picture.
Very true, very important, very nice pictures. Make sure to give them your best smile. Laura, are you taking?
We'll take, yeah, Laura.
Now we can't hear anyone.
We went from hearing you twice to not hearing you at all, Anna, sorry.
I don't know, you know, this picture touch each other. So like high five. Do you guys know what I mean? Like you might have seen it. So let's try to high five people next to. Oh yeah, perfect. And please stay like this for a little bit because I'll have to scroll through the pages. Yes, and don't write in chat because otherwise, yes. And I hope.
You look so good right now.
I slightly feel like a chicken.
You're high fiving.
And then the next slide. Great. Oh, I love the
You might be friends all together.
Thanks, everyone. And then I guess we'll see you all tomorrow.
Yes, just one.
Everyone.
Sorry, just one small thing from the BNC board as well.
David, do you have any closing remarks or BNC board, or is
yes,
it?
Just this was already kind of it, and the picture is a nice way to wrap up. Just sort of a final closing remark from the BNC board. This was our first time chairing a BNC board for the majority of us. It was the first time chairing a digital event as well, and tomorrow we have to do it again. So obviously we've already been taking some feedback throughout the day, which we are very thankful for. But if you have anything else that you would like to let us know, please feel free to reach out to us via Slack so that we can be sure to be even more productive tomorrow. Thank you all once again, and see you tomorrow. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that could be our closing picture of today. No, let's still post ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And then we can post this. Yeah, okay. The last slide is like with many empty.
Shall I close the meeting?